Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shoulder Tap, the segment of this stream where me and Brett sneak up behind you and tap you ever so gently on your shoulder because you're doing stupid stuff. Or congratulate you for doing awesome stuff. Sometimes it's a hodgepodge of both. Brett is one of our risk managers. Where are you today, Brett? It looks like a different
I'm
background.
actually. I'm at home today, working from the living room office and downtown Chicago. But yeah, and the only reason that we're sneaking up behind you to tell you something is because we care and we want to help you learn and grow as a trader.
Could not have said it better myself. So before we get started, do we have any on the run shout outs for any of our live traders today or funded traders?
Yeah, we've got a few. We've got some shining lights, and then we've got some that are struggling a little bit today. I generally give an update on Dakota, and Dakota, he started off strong today, early at between 7 and 8, 9 ish, and unfortunately, Dakota trading that big size caught him today and hit a daily loss limit. And actually, Dakota did a good job reaching out to us saying that, hey, you know what? Let's talk about adjusting that daily loss limit number to a little bit lower value. And Deanna's made $350 today, which is great. That's a great day in my book. That stretched out for a year would be around $80,000 or $90,000 a year if you could do it every day. Some other
Trader
bright
math.
ones we've
Love it.
some other ones we've got is Shao in a Topstep X Live funded account is up $6,500, and Chow is up 4,400. And Shao, going back from Chow, is hasn't traded for a few hours, which love to see after locking in $6,500 in profits. So really doing a good job. And if that were me, I would probably put it away for the day and not trade. Maybe just watch the markets and see what happens. Maybe do a one or a two lot here and there if it really looked good. But I would have that individual trading or individual trade loss limit real close to zero so that I made sure to take home as much of that profit that is already locked in for the day.
Good point there. And with your loss limits, I mean, in any professional setting, the way to increase and decrease loss limits is you increase them very slowly with time and you decrease them very rapidly and severely. You always want to lower those much quicker than you raise those. That's how you maintain a sustainable account. So, good job, the Dakota, on that. And with that out of the way, Brett, I understand we do have some cards today to show.
We do have some cards. Well, I want to comment on your on you mentioning the loss limits and how they move quickly up from closer to zero and slowly down to a higher loss limit. And it's similar to retail, or I was taught at a young age that the gas stations, they generally increase the prices a lot more quickly than if the market moves up than if the market moves down for them lowering it. So very, very similar and closely aligned. And if you watch the RBOB markets on the NYMEX, you can see that they do follow that.
Oh yeah.
So
No, you gotta test the market in that. See if there's still demand there before. You always want to, if anyone's selling gas out there, you want to squeeze every penny out while you can, which is not great for us. But then again, I don't own a gas station, so
yeah, absolutely. And you also mentioned the trading cards. Let's get into those. The first trader that I wanted to feature today is Raphael. Raphael is in day two of their live account today. They had 150K XFA that moved up to live, and they started trading on Friday. I may mistakenly say yesterday as in the last trading day. but I do mean Friday if I do happen to do that. Raphael, the stats on the trading card that you see, I just want to mention, are from the express funded account, which you can take payouts from. And like I said, Raphael got called up to a live funded account and really has exhibited some great behavior and discipline in the express funded account. And we're not really seeing that in the live funded account, at least in the first 2 days. A couple of really good things about that are we've got time to adjust that and tweak it, but let's do it quickly. Like Jack said earlier, let's keep that daily loss limit or personal loss limit particularly closer to zero than the 3,000 on unemployment on Friday. That was a rough day in the live account where it was a $4,500 realized loss, and that's a tough one for your first day in the live account. A few
Yeah.
things in the XF. Oh, go ahead, Jack.
No, especially on a unemployment day like that, when you know there's going to be huge volatility, that's not the time until you've kind of established yourself to start risking it. And I'm not saying you can't, because when I was trading, that was always the biggest day of the month. That was what we were looking forward to, but you had to build up to that because there's a lot of risk as well, as we have found out.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of big economic numbers, I remember I used to for a short period of time I would sometimes go into a number with one or two lots on, and it would work maybe 80-90% of the time. However, that 10 or 20% of the time that it didn't work ultimately added up to I'm not doing this anymore because it wiped out and more those 80 to 90% days that it did work.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm also seeing, when did he have the trade on? I can't see in the trade report I'm looking at. I just see that he had that loss on unemployment. Were they holding through the number, or were they just getting right in afterwards?
I didn't go back and look at the specific trades for that day for Raphael, but I know that there were only two trades on the day, and they lasted 20 minutes. But those two trades added up to the $4,500 in losses, and they were. It looks like they were six lots on each of those trades, adding up to
Mm,
24 contracts on the day. Um, so 2,300 on an individual trade, that's a lot to lose on an individual trade. Which one thing I want to highlight today with all three of our traders is we've talked about daily loss limits a lot. We've talked about personal loss limits or personal daily loss limits a lot. And one thing that we haven't really talked about, or at least I haven't talked about, is a trade loss limit. Go into a trade with some numbers that I'm risking this. And when that number is hit, get out of it. Don't say
yes.
what's another 5%, what's another 15%. It already hurts. If the number gets hit, follow your discipline and execute, get out of it, stop the bleeding. Um, One thing for Raphael in the XFA that really looked good was the few trades that Raphael was taking on the day. 4 trades a day, again, 6 contracts on average per trade, and an average win of 2,500 and an average loss of just about 670 on each trade. That is stellar. And with a 33% winning day percentage and 28% winning trade, that really carried you through the XFA and up to live. Um,
I have some thoughts about this too, because this is someone who I'm looking at their trade report right now from the XFA, and those numbers are a little skewed, and I'll tell you why. Sometimes you can't tell what people are doing from looking at their trade report. There's a bunch of trades and it's all over the place. But this is definitely someone who's being very selectively taking most of the time. So out of 15 days, they took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On 7 of the days, they took one trade. and then just a handful on the others. But here's what's interesting, and this is what's making the losing days, for instance, 33% on a bunch. This person is clearly putting on whatever their trade is, looking for the runner, and then bringing to stop the break even at some point. Because on a lot of these losing days, for instance, let's take a look. So like, this is how I know you brought the break even. Here are some of the losses that contributed, losing days that contributed to that 33%. Minus $1.30, minus $3.80, minus $2.34, minus 34 cents, minus $2. So that's kind of where the days are getting out of whack. Um, it seems that he was either taking the break even or occasionally hitting the club DLL, as I call it out there, or the trade works out and they take it for a fair amount of money. But that's what I just wanted to comment for people out there. That's why the winning day percentage is so low. And also a little bit why, his average loser is so low compared to the winners. So just something interesting I saw on there.
Yeah, that's a great point that you bring up with that, Jack. And that being said, it's not a bad idea to, once you get into a trade, maybe consider using a trailing stop that is going to follow the market with you and not against you. And that way you can lock in a scratch or even a small profit, which is the key. And that can be tough, especially after you see it going with you, and then it gets close to your stop. Cancel if close is something that every trader, I think, struggles with, or at least I know that I did, where the market gets close to my stop out or stop loss, and it's like, okay, I'll move it back a little bit. Next thing I knew is it'd be going against me, and then it's kind of the let it go another little bit against me when it could have been a winner. I could have taken half of the contracts off and locked in a profit, but it's a tough thing to do. But stand by your discipline, and especially that individual trade loss limit.
Yeah, interesting stuff. So yeah, I mean, Raphael, tighten up the risk now in the live account for sure. Don't be coming out of the gate like that. The horse is out of the barn, so to speak, but you can still do something with that. So heads up.
Yeah, it's all about managing expectations and setting them realistically, and maybe even set them lower than you might hope for, even after just a week. Make $50, make $100 in the account, and get on the right side of zero so that you have some cushion and you have some confidence, but keep that in check that it doesn't skew your discipline.
And just to mention too, I mean, on the plus also, Raphael took 18 grand in payouts. He's also number 5 on the current account balances plus P&L's leaderboard we do. So it's working out for him. I like that I mentioned the club DLL a lot. It is nice to see that a whole bunch of these days in the XFA, he was taking basically scratch. Whereas with a lot of the cards we do for shoulder tap, sometimes we see they ain't stopping at scratch. It's DLL or Valhalla. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do because ultimately we're all here to make money from the markets. And you don't do that by scratching, but it does enable you to do it again tomorrow, which is more important than doing it now.
Right on. All right. Who else we got here?
All right, next up, we've got Everardo. Everardo has been in their live funded account. It's a 150K account for 26 days, trading days completed. And Everardo has some good percentages: 85% winning day percentage, 80% winning trade percentage. The one thing that kind of stands out though is it's about a 0.5 to 1 reward over risk. They're making 162 per trade. They're losing 331. But those trade percentages are really carrying you through and ultimately allowing you to get that $440 in average daily P&L over the life of the account so far at 26 days. And it has added up, and it's added up to some sizable payouts since this live funded account has been opened. $9,700 in payouts, and
Hmm.
um, really, really modest trades. It looks like, as far as being able to take 160 out and stop the losses. And when you have an 85% or 80% winning trade percent, you can be closer to one or even a little bit upside down. But really like that Everardo's taken 2 contracts per trade and really limiting that risk. Built up a healthy account balance, and even though they have a few losing days, just let's work on limiting the losses to a smaller number, and that way it can really start to flourish. And I mean, the average losing day for Everardo is the daily loss limit, but there's only, I think, what is it, 2 of them or three? I think 3 of them since the account started. So managing the account well, positioning themselves so that they can trade for tomorrow, and most importantly, taking payouts from the account.
Yeah, he did stop himself. So two daily losses, one stopped himself short. Um, it's less clear what he's doing from looking at this trade report. What I will say is that it's a pretty big sample size we talk about here, where he's averaging 8 trades a day, and he's done 26 days. So he's definitely found something here. Even with that significant number, I don't know how long you can depend on 80% winning trades. That seems a touch high. Um, so my advice to Everardo would be to adjust to a world in which you're right 65% of the time or 70% of the time, and manage your risk and positions that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And with a best day of just shy of $2,000, it looks like they're managing their expectations well, and could benefit from a individual trade loss limit or personal loss limit that is significantly smaller than the daily loss limit.
Mm-hmm. Overall, though, this is a pretty good looking card. Great job. 440 a day over 26 days. As you mentioned, 9,700 in payouts. Done it 3 times, taken 3 payouts. Not a lot to complain about there. So hope you keep that 80%. Prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Make it 90%.
And like you said, tough thing to do. But that 440, you had mentioned trader math earlier, Jack, when we were talking about the last trader with right around 80, 90,000, or I'm sorry, Deanna, when we were talking about 350 being around 80 or 90,000 a year. $100 a day over the course of a year is $25,000. So not difficult math to do, but keep that in mind. $440 a day is more than $100,000 a year, which is not an easy thing to accomplish in the markets or professionally for a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's an average over 26 days. It's not, when I say trader math, I'm usually joking when somebody on one day makes $2,000 and it's like, well, I can make a, what is that times 250, $500,000 a year trader right here. Quit the job, uh, buy a Lambo on credit from the mob. I don't know, but you need a large enough sample size before you make that average. But yeah, that's, if you can average a couple $100 over an extended period, that's good stuff.
Yeah, and going the other direction with it is something that I used to like to do. My first job at Ace Hardware paid $5.85 an hour. One thing that I would do after a good trading day, or even in the middle of a good trading day, I would do the math backwards and go, "Wow, I made $5.85 a minute." and that was for 3 hours or something. It's fun to see those numbers, but don't let it skew your reality and expectations for the market going forward. A lot of times for me and other traders, it can be an outlier where you're going for a base hit and you get a home run. So
Yeah.
keep the expectations realistic. Don't let it, because of 1 or 2 days, change your personal loss limit, or let it change it significantly less than what those numbers add up to, at least.
Yeah. And as we transition to the next card, I definitely am guilty of that myself. I think I said this before on here, but I remember my first month when I had my own book trading at a prop firm. At the end of the month, you know, I was doing the math and kind of being like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm gonna retire when I'm 30 years old, and go hang out with Leo or something like that. And I remember saying it to, like, we had a night clerk who was temporarily on days or something, and I had the hubris to kind of be like, yeah, no, it's not that hard. You just do this and you make X amount per month, and this will go on forever. Well, it did not go on forever, and you got to change those things. So, personal pain. Let's see who has some personal success in the next card. Although I don't know if they
Yeah.
do.
And I mean, that's another good point that you were saying. Let's make it last forever and expect it to last forever. My first year trading full time professionally, I was kind of a scared trader, if you will, which isn't necessarily an unhealthy thing. Because I hadn't seen every economic number, and I hadn't necessarily seen December grains expire, or whatever the highest volume month, or at least with grains in particular, the new crop, old crop. I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
seen everything. And because I was scared, some of my most consistent trading was when I was a young trader, as in not that experienced, because I wanted to make it work. And it's a tough thing to make it work. But when it is going well, it can be almost too easy, where it does skew your attitude. And it's like, well, okay, all I have to do, if it goes against me, put more on, and it'll come back. The problem is it doesn't always come back.
That is correct.
Um, yeah, moving on to the last trader that I wanted to highlight for today is Raymond. Raymond is in a 100K XFA, and the first thing that stands out to me with Raymond, well, first of all, Garden Grove, California. Um, that always will remind me of Sublime, the band. So,
Good call.
but the other thing that really stands out to me is take a payout. You're doing well in the account, take a payout. Um, you've been in this account for 34 days and you've gotten some traction. You've got the account up to almost $21,000. It's time to take a payout. You take 5 trades a day, you're right around a little under 1-to-1 on your reward over risk. But again, that 79% winning day, 70% winning trade is carrying you to profitability, and the small trading is really going well for you with 2 contracts per trade, which makes it a lot more comfortable, at least when I'm trading, for me to sit there and watch the numbers fly around. Because even with just 2 contracts, that can be a lot depending on the volatility of the markets.
100%. I don't see a lot of 100K XFAs around here. Is the daily loss limit 2,000?
Yes, it is. The daily loss limit for the 100K is 2,000 in both the express funded account and live funded account. Um, the one thing that really stood out for me with Raymond is their average intraday P&L high and low. $800 to the good side, minus 184 to the bad side. So managing those trades well, and not allowing them to run away from you. But it looks like sometimes when Raymond gets into a trade, they just let it go if it doesn't go to the good side for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a few different days where there's only one or two trades where they've hit their daily loss limit. And it's time to get out of the trade before it really hurts.
Yeah,
So,
Raymond's doing great trading. Definitely pay yourself. I was going through there. 6 of those 7 losing days. This is a firm. Raymond is a firm VIP at the club DLL here for sure, because 6 of the 7 losing days are $2,000 or slightly more because of slippage. Just the reminder to everyone: you do not have to lose your DLL if you are down. There is an option not to do that. That I would
if
recommend
anything, you
taking.
shouldn't.
Now, there's the one famous trader who was talking about how, they never hit their, like, they always take it off early. I don't believe in that. I believe that, and it's rare that I say this on here, that you are not trading big enough if you do not hit your DLL at some point, at some frequency. It'll depend on what your risk reward is. But, if you go an entire year without hitting your daily loss limit, I would argue that you are not trading enough size. What percentage of people have this problem in the trading combine? I don't know, 1%, under 1%. Usually it is the opposite, where it is slap out of the DLL. Sorry, this is just a heater I've been on this week, but go ahead if you have anything else to say here, Brett. It's still
Yeah, I
great
mean,
trading. Just take a payout, man.
yeah, take a payout. The thing is, if you're making profits and profits that are comfortable for you to live on or supplement your income, you don't necessarily have to. If you can do it with one or two contracts, you know what? Do that for a while, build up your balance and let it grow. That way you can afford some of those swings or unexpected market conditions. I remember Halloween day one year, a pipeline for the evening session exploded on the East Coast or went out of service, and the RBOB markets were wild. And
Mm-hmm.
they just being able to trade that was so important that a one lot was as risky as a 20 lot would have been at times. And so adjust the contracts and lots that you're trading to the market conditions.
Yes, indeed. Well, Brett, thank you very much. We're coming up on time here for Shoulder Tap, but always a pleasure to talk to you.
Absolutely great to be on here. And just remember that you don't go broke taking profits.
You don't go broke taking profits. That is correct. Yep. Manage your risk, folks. That's why we do this every day. Stick around because we got the Riz takeover. JD and Robert are coming up next for group coaching. You will not want to miss that because he is going to riz you all to wisdom. I am an elder millennial. Thanks everyone for watching Shoulder Tap. We'll be back just after this.